Third reading.
I call on Government Order of the Day number 2.
Families Commission Amendment Bill, first reading.
Mr Speaker.
I call the Honourable Minister Paula Bennett.
Tēnā tātou te whare. I move that the Families Commission Amendment Bill be now read a first time. I nominate that the Social Services Committee consider the bill and at the appropriate time I will be moving that the committee reports back to the House finally on or before the 27th of November 2012.
Tēnā koe.
Mr Speaker, this bill will allow the Families Commission to be more relevant, efficient and purposeful than ever before. It will focus the Commission on independent monitoring, evaluation and research, specifically filling current gaps within the social sector, as well as its current function of acting as an advocate for families generally. The purpose of this legislation is to enable the technical changes which underpin this restructure. The amendments to the Act will introduce a new function in research, monitoring and evaluation, establish a social science experts panel, remove the title of Commissioner from all but one member who becomes the sole Families Commissioner, require the Families Commission to develop the annual Family Status Report and give the Commission access to statistical information in accordance with the relevant sections of the Statistics Act 1975. These changes give effect to the National Party and United Future Confidence and Supply Agreement. Essentially, that bill enables some technical changes to be made so that we can refocus the Families Commission to get the best out of it. I welcome the Select Committee's scrutiny of this bill in respect to these technical changes. Let me explain the vision, though, that will follow these changes, which, while outside of the scope for this bill for the Select Committee's purposes, I think is helpful in terms of explaining the context. So we are taking 3.5 of the $8 million a year in funding and channeling it into the new Social Policy Evaluation and Research Unit known as Superu. This unit will independently monitor and evaluate programs and initiatives in the social sector, a job currently done largely by government departments. And I believe giving that role to a more independent body is beneficial and will see more NGOs entering into more robust evaluation and monitoring. The truth is, Mr Speaker, how many NGOs are actually going to go to the body that funds it to get a true evaluation done on its effectiveness if they feel that at some level that funding might be under jeopardy, depending what that sort of outcome is. By having a more independent body that they can get that robust research and evaluation done, I think gives a level of distance from government, which is important, and I hope that we eventually actually see it being even more independent than what it currently is, and that we set it up accordingly. In New Zealand, there is a serious lack of evidence for what works in this country. We have thousands of social organisations working in the community, often with very vulnerable and at-risk families and individuals, but we often lack sufficiently robust evidence through monitoring and evaluation to be able to confidently say whether they are making a positive and tangible difference. The Superu will be able to radically change that picture over time. It won't be an overnight kind of change, but unless we start setting up the right avenue and the right place for that to happen, then we can't get the change that we need. A big and an important part of this is the rigour that will be alongside of it, academic peer review and guidance from a social science experts panel. This is being headed up by the Prime Minister's Chief Scientist, Sir Peter Gluckman. That panel will bring academic and scientific rigour, which will ensure the Families Commission's future as a highly regarded centre for evaluation. The type of research I anticipate a unit of this calibre commissioning will be pertinent, relevant and really useful. They may not be doing all of the research themselves, but we also don't have a place of excellence that what government is commissioning as far as research from university has somewhere to go through and actually collect all of that data. So individual departments do it at the moment, quite well in some cases for specific purposes, but it's not actually been collected in one place and having that right kind of avenue to go through it. I think that's going to make a huge difference. Let me give you a bit of an example, which I think is the best way to describe it. So an example could be a town has decided that it wants to set up a youth program because anecdotally they believe that there is a need for it. They're seeing young people on the street. We hear this all of the time. I see them being able to go directly to Superoo, so they may get money from a philanthropist, they may have saved some funding themselves, they may get money from government as a reality, which will fund that actually bit of research. The first thing they'll do is get the scoping work done. So let's actually scope what really is there, get it done slightly independently. Then they can have the research done and get what is best practice. And I imagine that Superoo will have like what is the 5 components that are really necessary to make a successful youth program, and then they can kind of design it around that to be the best program. At the moment, we have it done in a very ad hoc way. So a good organisation will go out and meet other good organisations and ask them what they do and how they do it. They may try and get a bit of research done themselves or look at what research is available, but it's not done in a way where it is collected easily and it is at the whim of usually an individual that goes out and does it. Imagine having a place that has that kind of rigour behind it, that has that kind of academic research. I eventually see governments accessing more research through this unit. I see them asking for the assistance from it. The other thing is that the Families Commission, with the other $3.5 million, will be doing what it does. The White Ribbon campaign, the family violence work it does. We will also be requiring a family status report, which for the first time will be really analysing where families are each year at and how we measure that against it, which I think is very important. The organisation remains an autonomous Crown entity. There are changes to the governance structure, so there will be one commissioner, as I've said, then there will be a board underneath that. That board will be made up of everyone from people on the community organisations, philanthropists and others. And then I think this very important experts panel under Sir Peter Gluckman, which will really have that academic rigour behind it, which I think will really enhance the quality of the work that's coming out and its relevance. The one thing I've learnt in this job, Mr Speaker, is you can't actually go backwards and start collecting information differently than how you do, so that you can analyse and get the right evidence. It is the truth that in the first year when I was there and looked at what programs were working for my own ministry's $550 million spend of about 4,500 contracts to 2,300 organisations, I could not tell the New Zealand public how effective they really were. And then so when I did an analysis of all of those, which took actually quite some time, what came out of it was 20% were evaluated and doing a very good job, 20% were doing an absolutely shocking job, and in some respects may actually have been doing harm, and the truth of the matter is that 60% we didn't know. So we've dropped the contracts for the 20% that were doing such a poor job, we've backed the 20% that were doing a great job, and that 60%, which is obviously most of them in the middle, we are now trying to collect information, get their outcomes more focused on what we're trying to achieve, and in many cases work our way through what is such a massive job of building up that kind of evidence base that we need as to what does. But it's not a job that happens overnight. I think this bill is, and this Superoo and this unit is going to make a fundamental difference to how we get that kind of evidence behind it, to be used by NGOs, to be used by philanthropists, to be used by government, and to have that level of independence. I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.